A while back, I had created an entire motion design crash course on this channel to help you learn to create those fancy looking animations you could make only on Adobe After Effects back then. But what if I tell you can make something exactly like that now on Webflow? In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you do that. If you have just learned Figma and you're wondering what next, this is it. Webflow lets you not only to import your Figma designs, but now with native GSAP integration, it can also animate each and every element on your canvas, that too with no coding knowledge needed. I'll be making this travel inspiration website from scratch, fully packed with these dynamic scrolling animations and parallax effects. Keep following very closely as I'll be walking you through everything you will need to get started with Webflow to build presentable animated UI prototypes. Just watch, pause, and apply. I repeat, watch, pause, and apply. Let's get started. All right, so this is what we are going to build today. So if you scroll down, the break and free kind of goes on two different sides, and this image zooms in, which says look up, and the briefcase, the work bag finally going down. And then when you again scroll, you see a block of text, it's a quote, and then this carousel of images going on. As you continue scrolling, the carousel keeps scrolling on the right side and the text keeps appearing word by word on the left side, following by this section, which has a picture of a backpack which says, so where next? So it's kind of like someone who's stuck in the corporate journey with their work bag and they want to break free. So they scroll up, they look up, and they get inspired by travel. And then finally, maybe they go ahead and book any trip. Now, one special thing about this website, you will see there is no call to action or button anywhere. Why? Because this one's not a real website, right? That's a simple reason. But here we are doing this as an example just to learn how to create all these dynamic animations without writing a single line of code using Webflow. So this is what we'll do. I've done a bit of planning on Figma, although I'm not going to directly use any of these elements from Figma. Of course, there's a very nice plugin that can, move all the screens to Webflow directly from Figma. But if you see, our website has got very few elements, just a couple of text, images and all. It's largely about how it functions and not about the ingredients that are put together. And I felt that I also tried it out and I realized that it's much easier to directly create it on Webflow, right? So here we are, break and free as two different words, the bag, and these are nothing but, it just shows how it would work. And then this section, and then finally the last section, this one. Of course, for this one, I was also thinking if we could use this, but then I finally narrowed down on the backpack itself, right? Okay, so here we are. This website is going to have three sections, okay? Three sections. The first section is these three frames, which is nothing but, everything happening on one section. Then the second section is where you have this carousel. And the third section is the simple last section. Okay. All right. So let's go to Webflow directly. So here we are. This is the dashboard of Webflow. You can create a free account using your Google ID, Gmail ID, and you will land on a dashboard which looks like this. This travel test is nothing but, the one which I had made to try out before making this video. So I can go ahead and make a new site here. So in the free or the starter workspace, you can only have two websites at a moment here. So you can keep deleting the old ones to create more, or maybe you could publish, but okay, no, it solves our work. So I'm just going to click on new site and it's asking me whether I want an AI site builder, template, or a blank site. You could pick any of them. I'm going to pick blank site because what I'm going to demonstrate are the new ways of animating. And it's asking for a name of my site. I'm just going to call it travel site or something like that. And I'm just going to hit create site. It's going to take a few seconds and it's going to create a blank website right in front of me here. It's nothing but just a white section. So I'm just going to hide this bar. So this is Webflow. Now, this has got some similarities with Figma. The similarities are the center middle section is nothing but the work area where the actual design and development happens. So, as and when we build our website, you will see everything coming up here. The left part has got a couple of things. The most important being this navigator. The navigator is nothing but, it's a list of layers which is present. I can, click on this and pin the navigator here so that it's always visible. And rest of the things are also present. Now, again, you all are designers. I understand that some of you might have done a bit of front-end coding, HTML and CSS in the past, but here, many of you might be seeing this for the first time. And that's why I want to use that same formula which I had suggested to you for After Effects. We will look at the things that we need We will not look at the things that we do not need to know. Okay? Because if you're starting out, if I tell you everything, it is going to get super overwhelming because this is not so easy as well. So today I'm going to pick up only those 5% of the things on Webflow that you need to know so that you can make cool websites like this, right? And once you get comfortable with that 5%, yes, feel free to go and explore and do the rest of the stuff. Okay, let's begin, right? So let's quickly show you this. A plus is nothing but add elements. You can add different elements inside. And then this is, you can add pages. Now our website has only one single page. So, we are not going to use that all that much. Navigator is nothing but the layers panel, which I've already shown. These are components we are not going to use today. Variables we're not going to use today. Style selectors, we don't really need to use. It'll have some of the classes that we make. Now, what is classes? I'll tell you in a bit. Don't worry about it. Assets. Yes, we will use the assets panel. Assets are nothing but all the images that we use on our website. We will first upload them in the assets panel of Webflow so that they are easily accessible whenever we need to use them. Like you have seen, the website is full of images of various things. We will upload all these images here. Libraries, we are not going to use. And also apps, we are not going to use. All I'm trying to tell you is to focus on the things that matter. And of course, the right panel, just like Figma, is where the work happens. You'll have all those values, all the moment we start adding elements, you will see all of them here, right? So the default is style. Style is nothing but the place where you design in a way. Settings is nothing but, it is settings that has got a few details about the things that you pick up. And interactions is nothing but in a way, the prototype, if I were to draw a parallel with what Figma does, so it is like design, settings, and prototype, which is called style, settings, and interactions in the world of Webflow. Okay, now it starts with this thing called body. Now, this body is nothing but, think of it, it's a folder. So body can have other folders inside. So everything that we do is going to sit inside body today, right? It's an HTML thing. If you don't know, don't worry. Just remember that, hey, everything happens inside body, okay? So we are going to add different folders and stuff inside body, and we will continue designing our website, okay? Now, in this regard, I want you to know one simple thing, which is, if I click on this plus, you will see there are lots of things, structure, basic, list, item, and all of those text and stuff. We'll use many of them. You'll also see Lottie, Spline, Rive, and a couple of those things, buttons, text box, whole lot of things that you can directly drag and drop and use in your website, right? But one thing is extremely important, which is this one, div block. Right? Now, if you know front-end coding or HTML or CSS, div is nothing but it is the most basic kind of folder or container, as we call it, right? So everything else that you see, be it section, container, vflex, all of those are nothing but usage of div. So div is the OG thing using which you can make all of these things. For example, if you just hover on any of these, right? For example, if I click on this question mark, it'll actually tell me a section is a div block that extends across full width. So essentially, section is like a div, but which is like full width, right? So it's like a modified div in a way. So whenever you are in doubt and you don't know what to use, you can just comfortably go and use div. But when you know what you want to use, you can just go ahead and use, because it's going to save you some time, because you don't have to do some of the adjustments that you may need to do with an empty div, right? Today, you will see we are going to use div, as well as section, and a few other things. This vflex is nothing but it's like auto layout. Now, why are these appearing as tiles here? You will get to know very soon the moment we start adding them, right? So vflex is nothing but an auto layout, which is vertical. Hflex is nothing but an auto layout that is horizontal, and so on, right? So you can always include a div and then add an auto layout on top of it later if you want to. Okay, all right. Now I said our website is going to have 3 sections. Remember, this is section number 1, this is section number 2, and this is section number 3. So we will be representing each of these sections using a div. Since we know it's a section, it's a special div, we are going to directly use section. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm click on section, and the moment I do, you see the section got added inside body. This is actually a folder. This can have many other things, text, image, everything it can come inside this. So we have this section here, right? First thing first, my first section is yellow in color, right? I'll do that. But before that, let me add one more thing, which is called class. Now, class is a new thing which you may not be aware of if you're directly coming from Figma, if you haven't done front-end development before. Now, what class does is, it's just an identifier. Okay, it's just an identifier, don't go beyond it. And it also, it can be used to reuse some of the properties. For example, if I have a section and give it a class, attach it to a class name, and I say that the section, anything which has a section name as X will have a yellow background color. Now, if I give this X to any other sections in the future, it'll automatically, have yellow, so that I don't have to keep repeating it, right? So that's a shortcut. But we will be reusing some of those things, but the main reason why we will be using classes today is because we will be using that while animating, right? For example, you might be thinking, why do I need class and all? I can just use the layer name just like we do on Figma, right? IMG2, just, one clicking on this, just go to the other artboard and stuff. Yes, but here for some reason, that's how it happens in HTML and CSS, it doesn't understand the name of the layers. And that's why class becomes the actual identity in many cases, right? So today here, we will be using classes. Don't worry, think of it like just one extra label. It's a sticker that we are associating with it, okay? So this is a section, and we could do a couple of things to this, but before doing anything, let me just go ahead and add a few things out here, right? So this is the section. Let me go ahead and create a class for this, and I'll call it section. Okay, so here we have section. Now this is the section. Now whatever changes I make here, it is going to get inherited into the other sections as well, right? And the funny thing is we can also add multiple classes to a particular section, combination of classes, and that is going to be very important for us. You will get to know as we go out there, right? So this is our section, and I'm going to name this as hero section because this is the main section. And inside this, of course, I need an image. So let's go ahead and add an image inside. So I'm just going to click on plus and click on image. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and add some of these images in our library out here. So I have all these images in my, hard disk here. So I'm just going to go to my browser and drop all these images so that we can continue using them. So there we have all the images are uploaded. So I will just have them in alphabetical order so that, I can get them in the order, right? Now let's go back to our navigator. Here we are. Inside the hero section, I'll click on plus and I will add an image. And when I add an image, it adds a placeholder image, which is this placeholder SVG. I'm going to click on replace image and pick one from what we have just dropped. I'll pick image, not this one actually. I'm going to pick this one, image 10, because that's the image that I want. And I will just close it. Okay. Now I can keep the image like the way it is, but I'm going to add it inside a folder because I'll be cropping this image based on certain rules. For example, let's go and see a preview of what happens right away, right? So to see a preview of our website, because yes, it's pretty much a website now, I can click on this button which says preview. So when I click on it, this is the preview of our website. Now everything is fine, but this image is bigger than our viewport, right? Our viewport is nothing but what you get to see, and that's why the image is scrolling. Now that's not what I want. What I want is it should be just fixed. I don't want this image to scroll because I have plans to scale it up and scale it down and all of those, right? So to crop the image, I'm going to add a div, right? Like I said, a div is like a frame on Figma. So that's what we'll do. I'm just going to go to this hero section, click on plus, add a div block here and drag this image inside this div block. Okay, so now you see this is a folder. Inside that I have another folder called div block. I'll just change the name this to hero image box or something like that, right? And then inside I have this image, right? Now I'll give this a class. I'm just going to call it hero image box. I'm just using the same name so that it's not confusing. I created a new class and then I put it. You can create as many classes as you want, right? It's just for your organization and nothing else. And this one, image, let me make another class called image for it. Actually, maybe I don't need it, but I will make it regardless, right? So here I have, this is one group. Now this, we are going to make some changes to it. Okay, so first of all, let's go and set the height of this. Like I said, the height, I want it in a certain height. I don't want it to scroll, which means I want the height of this image to be exactly like the height of my whatever viewport that I see. Now, here's the thing, right? When you are designing on Figma, we can always say, yeah, the height is around 900 pixels or something like that. But when you are building a website, this website could load in any screen. It could open on a MacBook, it could open on a big monitor or some other dimensions. And it is hard to define the height in pixels. And that's why there are other units by which you can do it. And that's exactly what we will do. So this one, I'll set the height of it. So hero image box is selected. Now I come here, there is this section called size. Now you see by default, they're all set to auto, and all of that. So I'll just go to height and I will change the unit first. So I can just go and type anything out here, but clicking on this will reveal the available units. I'm going to set it to VH, which means vertical, which means viewport height. VH means viewport height, right? So it's like the height of viewport. And here, if I give it 100, it means that the entire viewport is what I'm talking about, right? So the height of this image will be the height of whatever the viewport of the device is wherever this website is loading. Now I can choose to make it 50% of the height, 70% of the height, 80% of the height. That's how you do it, the measurement, so that, even though you don't know the exact height of the screen, you can relatively add it no matter where this website will be loaded. For now, we want full viewport, so I've given it 100% of view height. The VH, viewport height, is what I had. Now there's one more thing. Now that I've set the height of the the frame or div in this case, what happens if the image goes beyond it? Now there are options out here, which is nothing but overflow. Right now, overflow is set to visible, which means, hey, there is a box and there is image inside. The image is going outside the box, but whatever is going, we will show that as well. We don't want that, right? So I will set this to either hidden or crop. In fact, clip is what I'm going to do, because it's going to clip and not show that part. It's just going to crop that part. So when I do that, and now if I go and see a preview, you see, it is not scrolling. It is fixed, right? I've given it a box, chopped off all extra parts, and there's no scroll. No matter which size I open this in, it is always going to take up my entire viewport, right? Done. So we are done with this part. Let's quickly go ahead and animate this section, right? Okay, let's do one more thing. So this image section, let's go ahead and do an animation. So I will select this and I will go to interactions. Okay, so when I click on interactions, you see this element trigger and a couple of things opens up. Now, this are the legacy thing which Webflow always had, but we are going to use some of the new stuff which they have introduced, which is here. At the bottom, I can change the version to interactions with GSAP. Now, GSAP is where the real magic happens, okay? So this has some of the fancy stuff which wasn't available before. So I'm going to click on GSAP and the screen kind of changes, right? Now, here you will see it says trigger on. Now, if you have used tools like Protopie, you probably already know what a trigger is, what an action is, and all of that, right? So, see, we are creating an animation. Now, trigger is a thing which decides what is going to create, what is going to start the animation. It could be a click, hover, load, or scroll, and some of those, right? So, in this case, we want our trigger is scroll, because as the user is scrolling the page, I want this image to scale from 0% all the way to 100%. So I will select the trigger as scroll. And the moment I selected scroll, you see the trigger got, it got saved and it got collapsed at the top. Now it says scroll one, class selected. Now, what is this class selected? This is what I meant, when I was talking about what the reason why we were using class and all of that, right? So if you click on this, it says hero image box. Hero image box is actually name of the class that we had given. So it has picked up this class. Target is a class. Of course, there could be other kind of things as well. Target is a class. And at the bottom, there are some things called start, stop. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it, but when we need it. Right now, we don't need it. So don't worry about it. I'm going to tell you as part of this video only, but not right away. So that is my trigger. Now, once the trigger is decided, I will pick an action. The action in this case is scale in, right? Now, when I click on select an action, a menu opens up. Lots of options are there. I can even click on more actions to see a few more. What I need right now is scale in. So I'm going to click on scale in. And the moment I do, you see it has become white. Why? Because it has automatically picked up scale from 0 to 1. 0 means 0%, 1 means 100%, right? It works in decimals like that. So which means 50% size would be 0.5 and so on, right? So that's it, 0 to 1. and it also has a duration of 0.25 seconds. Now, honestly, had it been an animation that plays by itself, this duration and these easing values matter. In this case, it doesn't matter because it is all programmed with the scroll, right? So the user can take more time to scroll, less time to scroll. It'll depend on that. And at the same time, you would see there is a timeline which has come up here, just like After Effects. So, if you want to, slow them down or, add a delay and all those stuff, you can just play around with this timeline if you're comfortable with that kind of thing. But either ways, like I said, here the duration and all doesn't matter because it all depends on how the users are scrolling. It's a manual thing is the trigger, so it doesn't matter. So I can just, just see here, I'm just scrolling and you see this is how the image is scrolling, right? So great. I will just close it. I think we are done. So I'll change the name of this so that we know what it is, right? Instead of scroll interaction, I'm going to call it scroll hero image because we're going to create a lot of them, and I will close it and I will come back to style. Let's quickly go ahead and see a preview, right? So there we are. It starts with nothing. When I scroll, I see the entire image. But there's one challenge that I see. It's like, the scroll distance is very less. I just scroll a little bit and it just grows the whole thing, right? I want to scroll a little more and I want it to comfortably load. Maybe once I scroll, it just grows a bit and so on. To do that, we have a very simple hack. And the hack is to increase the height of the hero section, which means, you see, what is scroll? A scroll is nothing but a certain distance on a page. As you swipe up, it just moves from the top of the page to bottom of the page. The page essentially scrolls, right? So if you want more scroll distance, you need to increase the height of the page, right? Now, how do you increase the height of the page? Similarly, just like what we had done for hero image box, we'll do it for the hero section itself. So I'll pick the hero section and I'll come out here. I'll come to size. We are talking about height, right? In height, we'll do the same thing. We'll change the unit to viewport height, VH. And like I said, 100 VH means 100% of the viewport. Now, if I make it 200 VH, it means it's double the height of the viewport, which means I can scroll not just one viewport, but two viewports, which means the extent that I scroll is going to be larger than what I had done before. Let's go ahead and quickly see a preview now that we have made it 200%, not percent, 200 VH. Okay, I'll go and click on preview. Okay, there's nothing because it's 0. And I start clicking. Yeah, you see, now it is much slower. I'm getting to scroll more. But there's a problem. The image is going up. I don't want the image to go up. Now, the image is going up because, yes, it's on the page and the page is long. As you scroll, the image is also on the page. So image is also going up with that, right? Now, what do? There is a simple hack for it, which is to change the position of this, which means this image box can stay here. Right? Now here we have one more thing out here, which is called position. We have seen what size is. Now in position section, you will see by default, any element is set as static. Now static means things will just keep stacking one after another. That's what static means, right? Now here, if I click on it, if I click on this drop down, you see there are multiple options out here. And the one that we need right now is called fixed. If you hover over it, as the name suggests, fixed just means it's just going to fix it there. And it also tells you what the explanation is. I'm going to select fixed. And the moment I select fixed, what happens is the page behind is scrolling, but our image is fixed. The position of our image is fixed to wherever it was. So that's why even though the page is moving behind, the image is still on the same place. That's what fixed means, and this is exactly the effect that we need. You see the hack that we used? Yeah, longer page, so we are scrolling more, but the image we have fixed, so the image is always in front of me, right? Awesome. So this is good. Now, if I remember, there was one more thing, this section. The hero section was yellow, and the next section is white, and the section after that is, this dark gray, right? So it changes with section. So this section class is there. Now I'm going to call it hero. I'm just going to create one more class and add here. So section hero is this. Now, whatever changes I make here, it is going to affect only in cases where section and hero come together. And now I'm going to make it yellow. I'm just going to pick this hex code from Figma, and I will go to this backgrounds. It's set to transparent by default. I'm going to paste this hex code and hit enter. And now if I come, you see, yeah, I have my yellow background just like the way it was on design. Okay, wonderful. So this is working. Now inside this, we need one more thing, which is the text. If you remember when it was scrolled in, we also wanted a text which says look up. Let's do that right away, which will be inside image box only. So inside hero image box, I'm going to click on plus and add a text. Where's the text? Oh, there it is, typography. I'm going to use this heading. And in heading, it's asking me which heading do you want. I'm just going to call it H1, whatever, doesn't matter. It's just two kinds of text we're going to use in this entire website. You see, the moment I did, this heading got added here, right? Now we'll make changes to it, right? Now let's create a class for it because I'll be repeating this style. I'm just going to call it heading. Okay, all right, I'm going to call it heading. And now I'm going to change the size of this, right? First of all, for typeface itself, I was using this thing called Droid Serif, which is like a nice serif font. So I'll use Droid Serif, and I want it really large. I want the size to be at least 140 pixels, right? And if the size is 140 pixels, the height can also be around 140 because I'll just be using it as one word. Doesn't matter. You see, it's just going at the top. It's just going at the bottom here. And I will make the color black. And I will also tweak the character spacing. I want to make it tighter, right? If I just put it at the top, you will start seeing here, it is just too loose, too much of spacing between the characters. So I'm just going to click on this more type options. And here I see letter spacing is set to normal. I'm just going to call it -10 pixels. Yeah, when I do -10 pixels, I think, yeah, this is something that I like. Some of the characters, some of the letters are also joining. Yeah, this is pretty much good, what I want. Okay, now let's go ahead and make some changes to it. This hero image box is there, and heading, let's just make it center aligned like this, and we will change this to look up, and I'm going to give it an exclamation mark. Okay, and now we need to change the position of this so that it comes on top of it. Now even for this, we will have to change the position. Okay, now here by default, like I said, everything is set to static. Now we will change this to something called absolute. Now what absolute means is it says it positions an element relative to its closest position's parent. Now what is a parent? Parent is nothing but the folder inside which you are present. So when I select H1 and send it to absolute, now whatever positioning it's happening with respect to the hero image box, which is the parent of this. Okay, and the moment I select absolute, you see there are a few other options which just comes up here, right? Which is like you can choose where you want to put it. And the last one, which says full, is what I want here. I put it this way, and if you see, it has come to the center but not really at the middle. And to do that, there's another simple thing. I can change this to a flex. Flex is nothing but an auto layout. Now, what does adding an auto layout to a text means? You're not really adding, right? You're just converting this text to a flex. What it happens is you get these alignment controls, and the moment you can just select on the center, and you actually have what you wanted, right? So yeah, I think this is pretty good. This is pretty good what we wanted. Let's just go ahead and see a preview right away. So here it is scrolling, and I have look up at the top. Okay, all right, so this is fine, but I wanted it white, right? So let's go ahead and make it white, not black, if I remember. Yes, this is white. So now that this text has this class is heading means this font, this size, this character spacing, and this color. So that we have sealed with what heading is, right? So I'm just going to change this name here to look up so that I know what we are talking about. Okay, all right, there we are. Now I want to add one animation to this as well. When this thing scales up, I also want to add an individual animation to this lookup text also, and that's where I want to make some changes. For example, first I will add another class to it. I'll call it quote 1. Okay, why I'm adding quote 1? Because like I said, when we are animating, and when you say that animate this class or this group of class, it is going to animate the same thing wherever we put it, right? Now, this is the animation that I'm going to give, which is, it's going to just fade from bottom to top. Now, for any other text in this entire website, if we use heading, it would do the same animation to that as well. We don't want that. And that's why I just put another class here, quote1, so that, we restrict it to only this text and not all of them. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the animation. When you see it, it'll all start making sense. Like when I click on lookup and I go to interactions, right? And same thing, I click on scroll because I want a scroll animation. And if you see, it says two classes selected. It says heading and quote1. So for anything, which has a class of heading and quote, this animation will work, right? So which animation will apply? I mean, work as it'll apply. So I'll click on add an action and I'll again go to custom. And here we need two things. One is move Y and opacity. So I'll remove this move X scale. So once you remove, if you want to get them back, you can always click on this plus and pick whatever, right? It had many more inside, so you can always pick from this list if you want to. Right now we just need opacity and move. So opacity and move. So here you see the from is disabled. It's disabled because you can choose to not have a from and just have a to, or just have a to and not have a from, and so on, right? So if you have one of this disabled, it means that whatever the starting point, you will change it, and the ending point, whatever it is, it'll just stick there, right? Right now, we want both from and to. I want opacity to go from 0 to 100%, and I want it to move from, it's right now at 0, I want it to move from 200, which is down, all the way up to 0, where it is presently present. And if you see the animation, I will just move this handle. So yes, as we scroll, this is what is going to happen. Okay, let's go ahead and see a preview right away. Okay, there you see it's already started coming up, image, and I have this lookup text coming up as we scroll. The opacity as well as the Y position is changing. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and do the rest of the thing, which is add a text block to it. Okay, I will go ahead and close this. Okay, now what we need to do is this break and free. Now this needs to be two different texts because break is going to move towards the left and free is going to move towards the right. Right? Okay, let's go ahead and do. So inside this hero section, I'm going to add one more div. Okay, and in this div, I'm going to call it text block. Okay, and I'll go to style and I'll give it a class. I'll call it text block, right? Or let's call it hero text block. Okay, all right. And inside this, I need two sets of text, right? The first one is a heading, and this is going to be break, and we'll need one more text, same heading, and this is going to be free. Okay, I've just changed the name of the layer, but not the text itself. So I'll go to settings and change it to free and question mark. Okay, now I'm going to add a class to both of them. You're not able to see because this is getting covered. If I do a preview, you will see break and freeze here, right? Now, this is where the class comes into the picture. So for this break, I'm going to give it a class, not here, settings, in style. I'm going to give it a class heading. Remember the class that we already had, what we had used for lookup. So I'm going to give it the heading. And the moment I do, you see break comes at the center, right? Now, I'll do the same thing to free also. I'll give this also a class of heading. The same style again comes up. Break and freeze now at the center, right? But it is on top of each other. To fix that, what I'll do is this text block, the div, the simple div, I'm going to convert this into an auto layout, or what is called flex in Webflow. So this text blocks I will select. So this text block I will select, and I'll click on flex. And I want a horizontal. So here you see we have added an auto layout or flex, the horizontal one to this text block, yet these are on top of each other. It's because, if you remember, while defining hero text block, when we were doing this one, right, lookup text, we had made the position as absolute. And that's the reason why it is happening. Now, this is the time to go and make individual changes to each one of them, right? So this one heading is nothing but break. This is break and this is free. Now, they will have to have different classes because break is going to go to the left and free is going to go to the right. Break is going to be black, free is going to be white, and all of that, right? So now we will add more headings here. So break is nothing but I'm going to create a new class called HL or heading left. And for free, I'm going to add a new class called HR or heading right. So that when I'm animating, I can say heading plus HR will go to right. Heading plus HL will go to left and will be black, right? So now that I have added these extra tags, I can go and make changes to these two, which will not affect the one on the top, which is already functioned like the way we wanted. Lookup is perfect. That's how we wanted it, right? So just these two. So the first thing first, let's go ahead and make break, which is break heading plus HL. We are going to make it black from white, right? So this has become black. And now that they are overlapping, like I had said, this has got to do with the alignment that we have out here. I'm going to change this to the position. Where is it? Yeah, from absolute, I'm going to make it relative. And the same thing I'll do for the other one as well. Yes. And now that you see, I have them in one line. Okay. All right. Now we have them in one line. Now for this entire block, it is just like the way we wanted. Break is black, free is white, but it is at the top. We want it at the center. Now this entire text blocks div that we had, we are going to make this one, the position of this as fixed. And then we are going to bring it to the center like this by clicking on this. Now, if you go back, you will see, yes, this is how we want it. Break, free, and then lookup comes, right? Of course, the lookup, we will animate the rest of the things. But the idea was that inside the text needs to have a position which is relative, that is relative to their parent. And the parent itself should have a fixed position because the entire thing will then hold it at the center and not scroll away with the scroll of the page. Perfect. Now we have it, and we have our classes, heading plus HL for the left one, heading plus HR for the right one. Let's go ahead and animate. Let's take H1 break. We'll click on this one and go to interactions and then click on scroll. Now we'll add an action. Now if you see at the top, it says scroll, 2 classes added. The classes are nothing but heading plus HL. So whatever we are doing it for the left, right? So that it doesn't affect the one at the right. I'd also rename this. It says, let's call it scroll. Let's call it scroll HL. We just need a reference here. And I'll add an action. The action would be custom. And I will add a move X. I don't need Y. I don't need scale. Maybe an opacity. We'll use it. And I also need from and to both. So I want it to move from wherever it is 0 pixels all the way outside of the frame. Now, what is outside of the frame? We'll again change the unit. We'll use VW, which is nothing but viewport width. Now, when I take viewport width, and whatever I put out here, it will depend how much viewport I wanted to cover. Now, if you look at it, this is already in the center. Now, for this to go out of the screen, it needs to move half the width of the viewport width, which is 50%. So it needs to be at least 50%, if not more, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Let's see if it's minus or plus. I think it should be minus. So I'm going to give minus 50. And now if I just check the animation, yes, it has started going and it'll just go at the edge and remain because, just 50%. So for the safer side, I'm just going to make it minus 60 and that's it. Now it is going to completely go out. Okay. And opacity also from 100%, I'm going to make it to 0%, right? So if you just go and see a preview, break is the one we have animated. Yeah, you see that is going out. That is going out. Now let's do the same thing for free as well. But in this case, it is going to be plus 60 when we are doing it, right? So let's just come back to this and we click on H1 free. Now, beside any of these layers, you see this small bolt icon. This means that this element has an interaction or some animation associated with it. The break has right now, free doesn't have. So I'm going to click on free, do the same thing. Go to interactions, scroll, exact same thing I'm repeating, custom, and I don't want Y, I don't want scale, I want opacity and move. Opacity is from 100 to 0 and move is from 0 all the way up to plus 60, which is 60, but not pixels. The unit we had changed it to VW, which is viewport width. Okay, now if you go ahead and see a preview, you see, yeah, it is working just like the way we wanted. Right? To ensure that the changes are reflecting properly, you can go ahead and refresh it once so that, it's a web after all. So now I'll scroll, you see, yeah, this is how we wanted it. This is how we wanted it. Now, in this section, there's only one thing which is remaining, which is the briefcase. We'll come back to it later towards the end. Let's go ahead and make our second section. So our first section is over for all practical purposes. Now here, while we are at the body, I'm going to click on this plus and add one more section out here. So here, this is the section, and this section, I'm going to call it carousel section. Okay, so this is the carousel section, and I'm going to give it the section class which I already had in this. Okay, so there I have it. Now in this carousel, let's first understand the structure before adding any elements. So this is what we are trying to build, right? Think of this whole thing as an auto layout. Inside it, there are two vertical columns. The first one is the text, and the second one, which is right beside is nothing but a carousel with 8 different images. It's again a vertical auto layout. Let's go ahead and do that same thing. Okay, let's go back to Webflow, and inside this carousel section, I'm going to add one div, right? Let's add a div. I'm just going to call it maybe canvas or something. Okay, I'm just going to call it canvas. This is the content of this section, nothing else. And inside this, I will need two more sections. One is one div, which will be the text box, and we'll need one more div inside this, which will be the carousel carousel box, since I'm calling box everywhere. And this carousel box, it is going to be an auto layout with 8 images inside. So this carousel box, right? I'm going to select this and make it into an auto layout. Right now, you see, we are just creating folders. Don't look at the section at all. Don't even have to worry about what is happening. If you see a preview, you don't see anything. Yeah, some white stuff is going behind, but don't worry about it. Okay. So here, carousel section, I'm here. And this is a hero section. So in this carousel section, the first thing I will do is I want it to go above, right? And you see this is not happening. This is going below. I want it to go above it. And one of the simplest way to do it is to, change this from static to relative. And if you do that, you will start seeing it going above. So let's just refresh the page once and to see the changes reflecting. All right, now that we have the folders, let's keep going and adding the content, right? For example, the text block is going to have a text unit inside. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, this canvas also, since I want them side by side, one thing that we could do is we can convert this canvas into a flex, right? And a horizontal one, so that, these two boxes are side by side to each other. You see, yeah, there we have it. This is our canvas. And inside that, we have one text box, which is the left one, and the carousel box, which is the right one. So inside the text box, we need a text block. We need a paragraph, simple text. So I'm just going to click on paragraph, and this text got added. Now, if you see, this is our text block of which got, it's white because we have added some default text, and this is a carousel box, which is empty. Now, for this text box, I have this nicely ChatGPT written copy, which I'm just going to include inside this. I'll just go to settings and I can just paste it here, and I hit enter. Okay, yeah. I go back to style. Now I'm going to change the style of this. And to this, I'm going to give it a quote, and I'm going to call it quote 2, because there's a second quote that we are using out here. And the style would be, again, the same droid serif. And this will be a large font again. And the font size would be at least 36. And if it's 36, the height should be around 48. Yeah, I think we are good. We are good. Okay, it is showing up in a weird way. We'll fix that. Don't worry. So we have the text here, and now this is our text box, and this is our carousel box. Let's also add some images inside. And like I said, we need a series of vertical images, one underneath another. And the best way to do it is using an auto layout, which is called flex. So this carousel box, I'm going to add a flex, but a vertical one. So I made it a vertical flex. Okay. And now we will go ahead and add images inside the carousel box. So I'll just click on image and add one image. Of course, I'll replace it with, whatever it is. I'll just make it alphabetical. I add the first image inside and I close it. So here I have the first image here. I have the first image. Now I can copy it 8 times and then we'll change the image. I'll do Command D. So I had 8 images. I have 8 copies right now. So which is nothing but this one. Let's go ahead and see a preview. It's going to be an ugly one, but you will know what is happening. Okay, the structure is building up. The structure is building up, right? So let's go to and do one thing. The carousel section, it doesn't have a color. By default, it is transparent, right? And so what we'll do is the class that is added is section. I'm going to add one more class out here, which is carousel, so that it doesn't end up breaking that yellow section that we had at the top. And now we will go and change the background color to white because this section is perfectly white. Now we go and see a preview. You see, yeah, it is working, but then things are not exactly in the way we want it to be. Let's go and fix that right away. Okay. So first things first, let's see this one, this carousel box and this one. First of all, let us understand how much of space each of these would take. The way I want to fix it is I want half the screen to be occupied by the text and the other half to be occupied by the images. And we can tell it exactly that. Okay, so we will do this. So in the text box, I can set the width of it, right? How? The same way, VW, which is a viewport width, and I'm going to give it 50, right? And it's because, we haven't given anything to it. We'll do the same thing for the carousel block also. We'll set the width as VW, and we are going to give it a width of 50, not 506. Yes. Now you see, it is exactly 50 and 50. Okay. It is still not there yet. We need some padding and all around it. So we'll take the text block and add some padding on the left. Let's add 60, and on the right, let us add around 20. And similarly for the carousel block, let us add some padding, 20 on the left and around 60 on the right. And let's also add some top padding, maybe another 60. Okay. Now if you go and see the preview, you see, okay, this is much better. Of course, we'll add some gaps out here. Let's do that as well. Now, if you see this carousel box, and this is a flex or an auto layout, I can add a gap or spacing between. I'll add 32 pixels. Okay. So there we are. The carousel is moving, but yeah, it is breaking. We'll fix all of that. We'll fix all of that in a bit. Okay. Now the thing out here is the content of this section is long. It has got 8 images, but the section itself is ending here. So to fix that, we need to increase the height of this entire carousel section, right? Which is set to 200 because it got inherited from the section. So I'm going to change this to around 500 so that it just occupies the entire space. Okay, we can trial and error. Yeah, I think 500 seems fine for now. We will reduce it later. But this part is working, but what is not working is this text. I don't want this text to be going away at the top. I want this text to be here at the center. This part should scroll, the text shouldn't scroll, right? Now the way to do it is make the text fixed, just like what we had done in the previous section, so that everything else in the page, including these images, will scroll behind and the text will be fixed here and will feel like it is just waiting out there, right? That's what we'll do. We'll click on the text box and we'll change the position from static to fixed. And the moment we do that, you see it is gone. And I get somewhere, it's inside, right? Don't worry. To fix that, what we'll do is, since it is fixed, the text box, I'm going to click on this one which says left, right? So there we have text on the left. So now for the carousel box also, we are going to change the position not to fixed because we don't want it to be fixed. We'll make it absolute. Absolute as in it is going to be with respect to its parent. And now that we select absolute, you'll start seeing these alignable things. We'll align it to right. Okay, there we have it. So as you scroll, yeah, it is coming up here. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that in a bit. Now it is yeah, kind of there. You have the section and we need to center this. And to center this, what we can do is this canvas thing, which is a flex already, we'll just have it at the center. And I think this should fix it. Okay, not yet. Let's see what could work. All right, this text box also we can convert it into flex. And when we make it a flex, you see this align options and then we click it here. Now it is at the center of the screen. So as you start scrolling, you'll see this is just like the way you wanted it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and refresh once to see if all the changes are reflecting properly. Yeah, it is. Don't worry about this text. Like I said, we will fix that. We'll make it disappear from this section, but ignore this paragraph and see break and freeze animating. Lookup is coming. The image has come. The next section appears. You have the carousel and you have the text and the carousel scrolls while the text block remains sticky there. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and fix the rest of the things. In the carousel section, inside canvas, inside text box, first of all, this text should be perfect black. Okay, all right. Now, first let us fix why is this text box appearing at the top? Like it shouldn't appear here. Well, it is appearing because it is fixed. It is sitting out there, right? And one way to fix this is to make sure that it is not visible when it is at the top. One simple way to do it is we do it by animation, scroll animation. That is when it is scrolled here, only then the opacity changes from 0 to 100%, right? That's what we will do. But before that, let us add some classes. The carousel section has section and carousel. Canvas, let's just call it canvas. And this text box, we'll call it quote 2 box, right? And this one is our quote 2. This is our carousel box. I'll call it carousel box, carousel box. That's it. Okay, now let's click on this because we want to do something to the text box, right? So we go to interactions. Let's add a scroll animation, right? And it says one class selected as the trigger. It selected code to box, which is nothing but this. This is our code to box or the text box. It has selected that. We will change that in a bit. We'll see. Now action, let us click on this and we'll add a custom action because opacity is only inside that. Okay, opacity, I removed it by mistake there. I bring it back and X, Y, and scale we remove. Opacity, I want it from 0 all the way till 100. Okay, now let's go ahead and see how it works. You'll see here I am. Yeah, the text is actually not there. Now, as I start scrolling, the text starts appearing here itself, right? Yeah, image is coming, everything is fine, but the text started appearing too early. We don't want that. Let us go ahead and fix that now. Okay, now time for a bit of the basics once again. If you remember when I was telling you about these animations, there is always a trigger and then there is an action. Now by default, Webflow, whatever trigger you pick, it picks the same thing to apply the actions to. In this case, which is our text box, which has a class name as quote to box, right? So it is taking that as the trigger. It is also taking that as the subject on which the action will be applied, which is 0 to 100. It says same as trigger, right? The only thing is we will change the trigger here. We want the action to be on this text box, but we'll change the trigger to something else. So just see what we do here. So I'm going to change the trigger to carousel box 2, which means when I'll be able to control when the carousel box moves through a certain spot, then add the actions to this text box, right? That's what I'm trying to do. But the moment you change the trigger out here, the action thing also changes here because it says same as trigger, right? So we'll change the same as trigger to a class and we'll individually pick this one, which is quote to box. Now we have set it up in a way that if anything based on any changes that happens to the carousel box, some changes should be done to the text box, right? Now, this is where we need to check this, right? These parts, remember I had told you that not to worry about now. This is where we'll need to start worrying about this one, okay? It's again very simple. You just need to hover on this eye and it's going to actually tell you in sentence what is going to happen, right? What you're defining essentially is when should this animation start? Because it's at 0%, it needs to go from 0 to 100%. And you are going to decide when should it start from 0 and when should it end at 100. That's what we are going to define right now, okay? So it says element top. Element is nothing but our carousel box. So if you hover on it, it says, where is it? It'll start when the element top or the carousel box top reaches the viewport bottom, which means when this carousel box, the top of this is this part, when it reaches the bottom of the viewport, which is this, that's when it'll start, right? That's when it'll start and it'll end when the element bottom, that is the bottom of the carousel, reaches the top of the viewport, which is like the extreme top of the website. And that's how you read it. Now, let's go and see the preview. And based on that, we'll make some changes. Okay, it says that may not be saved, but I think it usually saves. Let's go ahead and see. Okay, we had changed the trigger if you remember. So when the carousel top, when the element top, which is this, reaches the bottom of the viewport, which is this is when it starts appearing. You see, it has started appearing and it will end when the bottom of the element reaches the top. That's when it becomes 100%, right? It doesn't have anything else to scroll, so it kind of stopped here. We will change that. The way we want it is, we'll go back to this canvas and carousel box and go to interactions, this one, and I'll also change the name of this to quote appear. Okay, I will just hit enter here and I need some charge for my laptop because it's going to die right now. There, I'm connected. Okay, perfect. All right, so here this carousel box, I'll go to this scroll class 1. Now here we will do this thing. The way I want is when the element top, that is the top of this, when the element top reaches not the viewport bottom, but the viewport center, that's when I want the animation to start. That is when this one, it reaches the viewport center, that's when I want it to start. And I want it to end, meaning I want it to be 100% loaded when the element bottom, this end, when the element bottom, it's set to bottom reaches the top, but I'll change it to when the element top reaches the viewport top. Okay, now if you look at it, this is where our carousel box is, which is the element in our case is carousel box. When the element top reaches the viewport center, which is somewhere here in the 50%, that's when it starts appearing. You see this one, it starts appearing, and it should be completely appeared when the element top reaches the viewport top. This is how you read this, and now you see this is how is it working. Element top is at the viewport center, is it when it starts appearing. When it reaches the viewport top, when the element top reaches the viewport top, this is when it is completely loaded. Okay, now let's go ahead and see the preview once again. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it has reached the viewport center. This is when it starts appearing, and when it reaches at the top, it completely loaded. But now I feel maybe not here, not at the center. When it reaches maybe around 30%, not 50%, then it should start appearing. Otherwise, you have this where it is overlapping. So I'll just go and change this. Yes, you can also add numbers here, right? So I'll make it 30%, right? Now, if you want to understand, hey, what can you enter here? It was a word before and now you're entering a percentage. Just enter any random thing and it is going to throw an error, right? And this error is going to teach you. For example, it says invalid position, use keywords like top, center, bottom, percentages like 50, 80, or number of pixels, whatever, right? So I want 30%, which is from the top, and now it should work, right? That is when it is at the 30% of the top, when the top reaches the 30% of the viewport, then it starts appearing, and it's completely appeared when it reaches the top of it, right? So yes, this is how we wanted to make it appear. So here we don't have anything. As you start scrolling, the image comes. Okay, we'll have to scroll. The image is not scrolling properly. We'll have to refresh once. Yeah, there you see image is coming up. Lookup has come. The next section comes. Doesn't have a text, and when it reaches top, this is where the text appears, right? Perfect. Now we'll just do the word animation. Okay, now for the word animation happens only on text, so it needs to be applied on this itself, right? But again, the trigger has to be on the carousel box, because I want this animation to start based on the position of the carousel box. So I'll click on the carousel box and click on interactions, right? I'll add a new interaction here, which is scroll. Okay, now this is going to be scroll word by word, whatever I had mentioned. And there is one class selected, which is nothing but the carousel box, which is the trigger, and add an action. The action in this case is custom again, and it's opacity, because we are changing the opacity from 10% to 100%. Okay, now you see why is this getting affected, because like I said, by default it picks up same as the trigger, and the trigger right now is this. So I want the trigger to be this, but I wanted to act on the element, which is not element, sorry, on the class, which is not the carousel box, but the quote 2, which is the text quote 2. I wanted to apply on this. And now when you do, you see, yeah, it is going from this, but it is not happening word to word. To do that, we have to click on this called split text, right? You can read what it means. So split text means you can either split it by word, line, or letter. You could try out all of them. Word is what we want right now. But when you run the animation, you see that, hey, it's not really coming by word. Now, the reason it's not because each word is animating at the same time, and that's why it feels like all of them is appearing together. To see the difference, we need to add a stagger. A stagger is nothing but a delay between each of these. Now, if you see, this entire paragraph is broken down into whatever 50 or 60 words that it has, and each word is animating separately. And if we don't add a time gap between these animations, you will not see them appearing differently, right? So what we need to add here is we'll change the stagger to offset time, and offset time will change it to some 0.2 seconds. And the moment you do that, you will start seeing this one. Okay, let's go ahead and see a preview once again. So yeah, there it is. It is coming. Yep. The word by word animation is happening. I think this is good. This is good. Okay, yep, it's already started working in the way I had wanted it. Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, so this section is done. Now let's go ahead and make the third section, which is perhaps the simplest of all the sections. So I'm just going to click on, I'm just going to go out of this animation mode. Here, I'll just click on one more section. This will be outside here. Oops, it should be outside here. Yeah, and this section will be, let's call it the last section or something, right? So this last section, and in the style, I'm going to give it a thing called section, and we want it to have a color. So, before that, I'm just going to give it last as one more thing. And now I'm going to give it that same background color which this one had, which is like a dark shade of gray. I'll just copy this code and I will come to the last section and I'll add the hex code here. So now we have the last section, which is black in color. Okay. Now this one, we will set the height of it back to 100%. Set to 200 because it's inheriting from the first one. So I'll set it to 100. So section last is 100. And we have this section, and inside the last section I'll add an image. I'll directly go and add an image and replace image. I will click this backpack, and there I have it. I have this image out here, and here we could scale this image down, and one easier way to scale is just go to size, pick anyone, either width or height, and set it to percentage. Okay, and leave the other one as auto. Set any of these to percentage and leave the other one to auto. Now whatever percentage you put here, it is going to like uniformly scale it by that degree when you set either the height or the weight width to auto. Okay, so there we have it. This is the backpack image. I'm just going to give it a class, although we are not going to animate it. I'm just going to call it backpack, and we will center it actually. So I'll just change this to flex, and I will have it here. This is vertical. So I just made it into a vertical flex. The entire section I made it to a vertical flex, and I just centered it. You'll get this. And above this, we are going to have our text, right? The other text which we have. Okay, so perfect. I think this was what we have. And now we will add the text also to the last section. And after that, we'll add the briefcase. Okay, now this section, what I'll do is I'll use exactly the same thing that we had inside the image box, which is the lookup. So I'm going to make a copy of that, and I'm going to bring it inside the last section and keep it here, right? So I just, copied, duplicated, and brought it here. And this is going to be where next. I change the name of the file, and I will keep this heading quote 1 because I'm going to use the exact same style and the exact same animation. So I don't have to repeat it because the same classes are added, the same animation will get carried forward here as well. I will just change the text to so where next. Okay, now let's go ahead and see a preview of this one. Okay, let's go and see a preview. Let's go all the way back. I'll refresh the page just to be sure that we are seeing the updated version. Break free. You click on it, the image appears, look up, and then the next section comes. The text appears word by word. The carousel is moving on the other side. And then we reach the last section, which says where next. Okay, this is coming up a bit. We will fix that part. So more or less it is there. Okay, now let's do a last couple of things. First of all, let's change these images, right? I'll just go ahead and change these images. All that you need to do is the first one can remain the first. You just click on this gear icon and do a replace image, and then pick the other images, and just go ahead and do it for all of them. All right, all the images are changed out here. Let's go ahead and add our briefcase. Okay, now you'll see, when you're not previewing, you'll still see this text box here. Don't let it get distracted because, hey, it's okay. Let it be there because, when you see the preview, it is not there. It is just like the way you want it. Yeah, see the newer images have started appearing. So I'll just go here, and now we will add the briefcase. Okay, so in this briefcase, let us, inside the hero section, let us add an image. And actually I want this image, and we'll replace it with a briefcase. I want this image inside a div, right? So I'll add another div, and here this is my briefcase box, and I'll put my briefcase inside it, and I'll just create a class which is briefcase box. You see, I'm randomly creating this because we need them for our images, right? So there it is. You're not able to see because of some of the positions. So let's just go and see a preview. Yeah, there it is here. That's not how we want it, right? So we'll just go ahead and set the position to fixed. Yes, we want it fixed. And once it is fixed, we will move it to other places. So this also will change it to flex and we'll bring it here. And this, we will click on this. Now it is at the center of the screen. So, we made it a flex and we have brought it to the bottom. Actually, maybe that overrides. Maybe that was not needed. Either ways. So we changed this to, since it's fixed, we are moving it down. And now we have it here. Now we'll add some margin to it so that it goes underneath, right? So here it is, the briefcase box, the div that we had. Now you can't add negative padding, but you can add negative margin. So I think around -200, let's try, and we'll keep seeing preview. Okay, 200 is probably a little too much. What if we make it -150 or something? Let's try -150. Yeah, -150 is good. I just wanted the handle to be right underneath this, right? Now, when you make it fixed, this element is going to remain here no matter where you go, right? That's one thing which is going on top of it. Yeah. But what I wanted is, in this section, although it has remained at the top, the rest of the sections are going to cover it. But I somehow want it to be over it, and when it is disappearing, it should be over this section itself, so that there is an overlap or connect between the two sections. To do this, there's one simple way. Let us pick this briefcase box, and here in the position part, you have something called Z index or Z index. It is set to auto by default, which is nothing but in the Z axis where you want it to be. Higher the number, the closer it is to the user, right? So we will make it 1. Now, when we make it 1, which means it is on top of everything. Unless you give some other element a Z index of 2, this is going to be on top of that. So, when you scroll, you see no matter which section you're going, it is always there. You must have seen many websites where, maybe one phone is on the right, and no matter where you scroll, that kind of remains. So this is how they achieve that. You go across sections, but then that kind of remains. So this is how it is, right? So we made it, but we will also do some animation to it. Okay. So this briefcase box will go to interaction. We'll add a scroll animation. It will be a custom animation, and we're going to move Y. We're going to move vertical Y. So from wherever it is, we don't have to do it, or we can, just make it 0. It doesn't matter. 2, I want it to go down by around 300 to 400. Let's see how it works. Okay. So when the scroll is happening, you see the briefcase moving down? Yeah, there it is. And okay, the handle is still visible. When it is here, I want the briefcase to completely go away. So which means we'll have to increase this to maybe 400. Let's try how it works. And when you start scrolling, yeah, this comes, this nice overlap is there, but after that, the briefcase kind of fully disappears. Okay, let's just refresh to ensure that we are seeing the most updated version. So break free. When you start scrolling, yes, you see the image, look up, the bag is still here, and then it kind of goes away. This nice little overlap with the next section, it goes away. And then you have your text, which just talks about some motivational stuff about travel with some nice imagery on the right-hand side. And then when you reach that end of that section, you reach this, which says where next. Okay. Yeah, this bottom part is still showing up. I don't know why. Let's go and see. Maybe the overflow. Something has got to do with overflow. Let's see if the overflows is fine for the last section. Yes, the overflow is set to visible. Let's make it crop. Let's also ensure that it's set to crop for every section. Carousel section also should have an overflow of crop, and so should the hero section. It should have an overflow of crop. Okay. Now I think things should be fine. Okay, it says it's not, the changes are not saved yet. Let's go ahead and see. We'll do a refresh to ensure that we are seeing the updated version. Break free. Yep, image, look up, back going down. There it went. Nice little overlap. And then we have this text. It's just working. And there it says where next. Yes, so that is how you do it. And that was the video. If you followed along till the end, you are no longer just a designer, you are a builder. You have learned how to turn your Figma files into real websites, how to work with layouts, variables, animations, and even GSAP animations, and most importantly, how to stay ahead in a world moving fast with AI and no code. Use what you've learned to ship real projects, and if you found this valuable, share this video with a friend who might need it. And don't forget to check out Webflow's latest features from the link in the description. See you in the next one.